If you're applying for an MBA this season, don't miss this video. My name is Laura Nelson. I'm an MBA Admissions consultant at Target Test Prep with 15 years of experience. I've helped hundreds of candidates secure coveted admissions to their dream MBA programs. The MBA admissions process for top programs is competitive. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the 10 biggest mistakes I've seen on MBA applications and how you can avoid them to put your best foot forward for MBA admissions committees. I've grouped these 10 mistakes across some of the major application materials. Don't fall into these traps, and you'll be in a much stronger position with your MBA applications. The first two big mistakes I see on MBA applications concern your resume. So mistake number one is that your MBA resume details your day-to-day job responsibilities rather than your professional achievements. The MBA resume is different from your current job search resume. You need to showcase where you've driven impact professionally and quantify this impact using metrics wherever possible. If you don't have metrics, that's okay. Either an approximation or a description of the result is just fine. Just make sure that you're leading the admissions committee toward an outcome that helps them understand where you've made an impact professionally. Don't forget to include initiatives where you've stepped outside of your day-to-day role and made a difference. This can include employee resource groups, special projects, and other committees. Showcase when you've taken initiative and been a leader, whether you had been in a formal leadership position or otherwise. The second mistake I see in MBA resumes is that they're hard to read. I don't mean the font is too small, though I don't recommend that you go below a 10 or 11 point font. Instead, what I mean is that the writer hasn't taken account his or her audience. There might be too much industry jargon. You need to keep in mind that the admissions committee is well-rounded, but not necessarily comprised of experts in your field. If your resume has a ton of abbreviations, industry terms, and more, it's likely that your resume will be difficult to understand. Take a step back and describe some of your achievements using layman's terms. This is not to say that I want you to dumb down your resume, but rather I want you to ensure that a reader from another industry will understand what you're saying. This is where an admissions consultant can really come in handy to ensure your resume is written for the right audience. Next, I'm going to tackle the big mistakes I see on short essays and essay questions. The third big mistake relates to how a candidate articulates his or her post-MBA career goals. It's a huge mistake if your career goals are vague or unrealistic. MBA admissions committees ask about your career goals in short answers and essay questions because they want to set you up for success after you graduate from the program. So after all, the goal is to get a job, whether you're seeking an MBA to accelerate your career or switch into a new career. If your career goals are vague or unrealistic, the admissions committee will question whether you have done the right preparation for the MBA, and overall, your application might not build confidence with that audience. Make sure your career goals are specific and realistic. So an example of a non-specific goal is that you want to go into finance. Finance is a broad industry. Do you want to go into investment banking, private equity, or venture capital, or corporate finance? Get specific. An example of an unrealistic goal is expecting to transition from being an artist to an investment banker without any track record in quantitative subjects. Make sure that some of the elements of your past career will transfer to your new career. The fourth big mistake also relates to your short answer or your essay responses. It's the failure to show your fit with the MBA program you're applying to. Some programs ask very specific questions about why you want to attend that program and how the program will progress your professional and your personal goals. Often, MBA programs will ask what you intend to contribute to the cohort. It's critical that you gain an understanding of each program, their academic offerings, their programs, their unique cultures, to tailor your response accordingly. Your answer for a program like Wharton will be different than it would be for a program like Haas. So I recommend you do your homework and make sure responses are tailored to that program and that program only. The next big mistakes I see on MBA applications concern test scores and transcripts. Mistake number 5 concerns your test score and its alignment to the MBA program you're applying to. If your score is lower than the accepted range from prior year's class, you may be shooting yourself in the foot. So make sure that you maximize your chances of getting your best test score, either by retaking the test or taking another exam. You do not need to take the GMAT to gain admission to business school. Most other programs accept the GRE, which may be better suited to your current knowledge. Additionally, some programs accept the EA, or the executive assessment. Take this test that suits your abilities and take it more than once to score within the accepted range of your target program's most recent class profile. A great score won't get you in, but it certainly won't keep you out of the running for a top MBA. Mistake number 6 in MBA applications is failing to address a low GPA or poor grades in your academic record. It's possible to overcome these issues if you provide context for your academic record in your application. For example, if you had some personal setbacks during your undergrad experience, I would recommend providing some details about your situation in the optional essay. If your weak performance was in quant-related courses and you haven't done much in this area since, you might consider taking a quant-based course like stats, economics, or accounting and getting an A. Or consider taking MBA math. You need to remember that as much as the MBA experience is about professional development, it's also an academic degree. The admissions committee wants to understand that you can handle the curriculum of the program. By providing more information in your application, you can help to instill confidence in your abilities. The next big mistakes I see in application concern your recommenders and what they write. Mistake number 7 relates to your selection of recommenders. Don't choose the wrong ones. I know from experience that the recommendation process causes a lot of anxiety for candidates. I understand this because this is a part of the process that feels out of your control. However, you have more control in the process than you may think. This is where you need to follow the explicit instructions provided in the application regarding the selection of your recommender. Most programs want to see recommendations and feedback from your current supervisor. If you're able to set that up, that's great. However, there are some scenarios when your job might be at risk. If that's the case for you, then consider asking your previous supervisor. Make sure that you detail your choice of recommender in your optional essay or elsewhere in your application. Mistake number 8 is that your recommender provides generic and non-specific feedback. This is often the case when your recommender does not know you well or has not directly supervised you in a professional setting. Some candidates have the impression that an MBA recommendation will be more effective if it comes from a CEO or somewhere else in your organization with a big title. If that person happens to be your direct supervisor, that's totally fine. However, if the person with the big title is a few steps removed from your daily contributions, your recommendation will be generic, vague, and unhelpful to your admissions committee and your MBA candidacy. The admissions committee specifically asks for feedback from your direct supervisor so that they can understand the nuances of your performance, how it compares to that of your peers, and how you respond to that feedback, along with your professional potential, among other data points. So make sure that you get that recommendation from people who know you and your work the best. The final big mistakes I see on MBA applications relate to your overall application and diligence. Mistake number 9 is a failure to answer the right question. For example, some MBA short answers and essay prompts ask candidates more than one thing. However, some candidates are in a rush and sometimes they glaze over the full question. If your question asks about your short-term goals and your long-term goals, be sure to provide the admissions committee with the full picture. If the question asks what you hope to get out of the program and what you intend to contribute, make sure that you address both parts. There's a lot of opportunities to overlook what you're being asked in these complex applications, and the number one reason that people fail to answer the right question is because they're rushing and submitting at the last minute. Give yourself and your candidacy the best shot and allocate plenty of time for this process so that you don't make these easy to avoid mistakes. Finally, mistake number 10 I see in applications is poor grammar, but it also includes spelling mistakes, things like that. These can all simply be avoided by proofreading your application materials, ideally more than once. These mistakes are caused when applicants are rushing and submitting their applications at the last minute. The MBA is a huge investment of time, money, and resources, and these mistakes are really easy to avoid if you're putting the diligence into the process that it deserves. These are mistakes that you don't want professors or recruiters to see once you're an MBA student, so be sure to start your process off correctly and put your best foot forward. That's it for the 10 biggest mistakes. I hope that was helpful for you and your process. As I mentioned earlier, the MBA admissions process is very competitive, especially among top MBA programs. And as you may have gathered, the process entails quite a few components that must work harmoniously to optimize your chances for admission. If you would benefit from an experienced partner, an advisor, and an expert on the MBA admissions process, book a free consult with one of Target Test Prep's experienced MBA admissions consultants today.